So there you go. It's just announced so that you know that that is happening. And the first thing I'm going to do is I will share my screen with you, and hopefully you'll all be able to see that. Okay. I'm also going to open up the chat. So if during the event today you have any particular questions, then please do drop them into the chat, and I'll do my best to sort of answer those any issues that you might have. So let's crack on. And as I say, I might have to break off just to let people in from time to time. So we're here today to talk about the Essential School Website Masterclass. This really is an opportunity, and I'd like you to think of it as an opportunity to spend a little bit of time assessing the effectiveness of your own website. And I'm going to provide some hints and tips as to how you can go about making sure that your website is as effective as possible, and maybe point out some of the things that you can go and assess and see if you're making some mistakes on there, or the school is making some mistakes and things that could be improved. So lots and lots of things that we'll present, and hopefully you'll go away with lots of different ideas. Okay, so I think before I start, it's always important that you get an understanding of who I am. I always try on these masterclasses to make sure that you know what I do, and perhaps why I'm qualified to talk on this topic. So if you've not met me before, my name's Mark Davis, and I am Sales Director for Blue Apple Education. I'm lucky enough to spend my life talking with schools. I only work within education, so talking to schools about their marketing and communications and helping and offering advice with that. I get invited to speak at lots of events around the country. Obviously, over the last couple of years, most of those have been online, as this is. Always talking around that topic. So it's all to do with how schools can make their marketing and communications more effective, more cost effective, most importantly. I also sit on the Multi-Academy Trust Association's advisory board as their marketing and communications expert. So members of Matter, which is free to join, can ask us questions about anything that they're having issues with regards to their academy, and we provide a response to that. So I always provide the marketing and communications side of things, help and advice. I also host a video blog. This is it's called Out of the Blue, and I invite lots of different people onto Out of the Blue in order to provide their expertise and their knowledge on the topics that they get involved with. So again, you can go away and take a look at that. Hopefully, all of that gives you an idea of who I am and what I do on a daily basis, which is effectively talk to schools about marketing and how to make sure that it's effective for them. Okay. So Blue Apple itself, this is a screen I show on all of my masterclasses because I actually think it's a really good lesson that you can learn regardless of what you're looking at, and specifically what you're looking at with regards to your school marketing. And there are two fundamental things that if you keep in mind, you can make sure that your marketing is going to be effective. The first one is something we call Unearthing the Remarkable. So from our point of view, that's a commitment that we make to all of our school clients to really learn who they are and what they're about. So that's effectively their school brand, their brand messaging, what makes them tick, what it is that parents value in the school, and what their offering is all about. So Unearthing the Remarkable is effectively an understanding of what the school does. From your point of view, that's the first thing really that you need to make sure your school marketing is reflecting. So making sure that your marketing is actually unique to who you are and reflects who you are and feels true to who the school is and what the school does. The second thing is all about producing results. So again, from our point of view, that's a commitment to helping schools achieve what they need to achieve and giving them confidence that what they're doing can have an effect. So when I talk to schools about admissions, for example, there's very often a lack of trust in school marketing's ability to make a difference. So it's all about making sure that actually your marketing is designed to help you do that. They're the two things really that we're going to focus on today. We're going to talk around, and all of my hints and tips will really be about making sure that your website is reflecting who the school is and is actually working hard for you and doing the things that you need it to do, and perhaps helping you understand what those things are and pointing those out. Okay. So moving on. Very quickly, if you want to just drop into the chat, if there's anything in particular that you were hoping to get from today, if there's any particular issue that you've got, I'm not going to sit and run through those and question you about them. But what I will do is during the course of the session today, I'll be keeping an eye on those, and I will make sure that we've covered those issues. So if there's anything specific that you've requested, then I'll make sure that I go back to that and cover that if we haven't already done so, and sort of and make note of it at the end. So if there's anything in particular that you really want to get out of today, drop it into the chat, and you can do that at any point during today's session if there's anything in particular that you want some answers to. Now, it may well be that we're going to cover that anyway. Okay, so just to give you sort of an idea, it seems really silly to talk about this because it's obvious that the world is now online and that everybody uses the internet. So what I wanted to do is to just bring you up some facts and figures. So this is internet usage last year. And the reason I brought it up is if we think about ourselves as schools with regards to promoting the school for admissions, for example, which is one of the main focuses that we're going to look at today. You can see there that actually pretty much everybody that we want to talk to is using the internet. So all of those people that are 49 or under, so effectively who are parents, really parents who are going to be looking for schools, certainly, pretty much everybody, very, very small percentage of them are not using the internet. So as a space and as a place for your school, it is an area that you need to utilize and that you need to consider as much as you possibly can. Your audience is there. And so it's a brilliant way of reaching out to that audience, even if we're not entirely sure who they might be and what it is that they need to hear. Great, I'm getting some comments through on the chat as to the things that you'd like to cover. Yeah, great. Okay, so we'll cover off those things for you, no problem. Okay, and we've got someone in from Canada. Nice to see you, Daniel. How are you doing? Also, worth noting, Daniel, that although these are UK figures, when you compare them to global figures of online usage, it's pretty similar, to be honest. The UK is up there with global figures. What's also interesting is not only is your audience there, not only is it a place that you can reach out and talk to people, but they're there a lot. On average, internet users are spending 6 hours and 43 minutes online every day, which is an extraordinary amount of time when you consider it. So they're there, they're listening, they're awake. It's a great place to be talking to them. Although today's session isn't really about social media, there are plans for a 6th masterclass. There are 5 at the moment, a 6th masterclass, which talks about social media specifically. We've had lots of feedback from schools that have requested more information about that and something that they want support on. So we are in development of that masterclass. But I thought it was interesting to note that of all of that time that people are spending online, 1 in every 5 minutes, about 20% of their time is actually spent on social media. And a majority of adults say they're using YouTube and Facebook. If you look sort of primary school age parents, possibly, now will be also using Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok. That's especially common in adults under the age of 30. So again, really interesting for schools to know that, because they can start to utilize particularly Instagram, really, in case of schools. I've seen some schools using TikTok quite well, actually, but Instagram's a great place also to use that. So we're not really getting into much into social media today, but keep an eye on our messaging and the information that we send out, because there will shortly be specifically a masterclass about social media for you all. So the way I want to structure today, so that it makes it easy to understand, is to look at the common mistakes, really, the things that I see on a daily basis that are, I suppose, in my opinion, the mistakes that schools make in their websites. And what I'm particularly interested in is mistakes that are easy to rectify. Often they're the mistakes that don't actually cost the school any more money to get right, if that makes sense. So they can be really cost-effective changes that you can make that can make a real difference to the effectiveness of your website and making sure that you're achieving the goals that you're looking at. So we'll structure everything around that. And it's useful for you guys to sort of make a note and have a thinking about your own websites. Are you making these mistakes as well? I'll be giving you advice as to how you can fix some of them. Okay, so the first mistake I see in school websites is really, really simple. And it is that no goals have been set. It's quite obvious when I look at them that the website isn't being utilized as much as it could be. So most schools, well, all schools actually have a website. Don't know if that's the same in Canada, Daniel, but it's, you know, a legal requirement for a UK school to have a website. Ofsted need you to have a website, etc. But sometimes, and with lots and lots of schools actually, that's kind of the only reason why they've got one. And they've not really explored what else the website could achieve for them. And so when you look at it, there are so many opportunities being missed with regards to pupil admissions, with regards to staff recruitment, with regards to parental engagement, with regards to engaging with the wider community. All of those opportunities are sort of not there. It really is just a portal for presenting, you know, those vital bits of information that Ofsted request from you. So that's really the first thing to think about, is to make sure that you set some goals. And when you're doing that, is to make sure that those goals are specific and measurable. I'm sure I'm teaching my granny to suck eggs, and it's something that I know we teach our pupils, but those SMART objectives, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timed, make sure we've got these specific and measurable goals for our website. So, for example, if we decide our website could be working harder, it could certainly be driving more inquiries into our admissions process. Now, you might be thinking, we don't really have much of an admissions process. And if you are, then take a look at our masterclass, which is to do with mystery shopping, because that really focuses on the admissions process and looking at how we arrange that. So if you're thinking, well, actually, okay, we could do with that, and our website isn't working particularly hard to do that, let's set some goals that are really specific. We need to increase our enrollment by 5%, or we need to make sure we get 100 people to sign up for our next open day, or 20 people, or whatever that might be, and then measure its success. So we're going to design our website to start feeding those inquiries in, but then we're going to measure how successful it was. And then we're going to change things if it wasn't successful, and we're going to keep reviewing and make it work for us. Keep that goal in mind. Make sure that you're aware of all the things that you want your website to do as you're planning or redesigning your site. And I'll help you sort of map that out. Okay, so first mistake is that schools haven't set those goals and aren't utilizing their website. So the mistake is they're just not using it properly. The second mistake is when you arrive on a school website, it really doesn't create the right impression. Trying to get in there. Okay, it really doesn't create the right impression. So if any of you have ever attended my brand identity masterclass, we talk a lot about making sure that the way that you communicate as a school reflects the nature and the character and what it is that parents value in your school. Very often when I look at a school website, it'd be very hard to determine that. Other than knowing that it's a primary school, you know very little else. So it looks kind of the same as every other primary school in the local area. So there's no way that a parent can differentiate the school from the other schools that it might be looking at in order to choose which school is right for their child. First impressions matter. And again, this is something I harp on about a great deal. We might think that they don't, or we live in a modern society where we try and make sure that we're not just judging things on first impression, but actually it's human nature to do that. And parents will be making a judgment call about your school before they've navigated through your site and they've read your vision and your values, etc. So it's important that we get that first impression right, because they'll be making decisions about you that can be really hard to change, can make our life really difficult. So, for example, I've just brought an example of this school, and apologies to New Hay Community Primary School. I have mentioned that I use this in my courses. So it's just a great example of that. There is nothing particularly wrong with the website system that they're using. It's fine. It works perfectly well, but they're missing so many opportunities here. So I can't really tell you much about this school. I've got a little bit of an idea that they've got some outdoor space and they have a building, but other than that, I know very little about them. Now, I'm sure if you sat and chatted with the head teacher or chatted with the SLT, they would give you a very enthusiastic overview of who the school is and what they're about and what they stand for and what's important to them. And that should be very evident on this homepage as we arrive. So this is our first impression. We're a brand new parent. We've just started looking for a school for our child. What is this school actually telling me? Why should I engage with them? Why is it any better than any of the other schools? Now, if you consider that actually this is a very common thing, lots and lots of schools look like this, it won't take much for you as a school to change that and to actually stand out from competition schools in the local area, because very often you'll find that they're not doing a great deal of this sort of work. So what we want to do here for New Hay Community Primary School is to learn who they are, what are they about, what makes them tick, what's important to them, what the parents really love about the school, and then make sure that that is reflected on this homepage presentation, the first visual that I get as a parent. One way that we can do that is to actually think about the stories that we can tell. I won't go into this in too much detail. Again, we cover this on the brand identity masterclass, where we really look at how you get a grip on your school brand. But effectively telling stories on your website is a really good way of engaging with parents. And a really good way of doing that in turn is to think about video content. So your website really lends itself to video content and storytelling. What we've got to consider is a parent doesn't really know anything about your school. They know that you're a primary school. And what we want to do is to engage with them, give them a sense of what we're like. If we can, we want to make it as though they visited, they've walked through the door. I very often hear head teachers say, once somebody's visited, then we never lose them. People say, they get a real feel about the school once they've walked through the front door. I certainly do when I visit the schools that I do. So we want to be able to do that when somebody visits your website. Video is a really effective way of doing that. And there's lots of ways you can do videos that, you can invest in professional video and having a promotional film. But actually, there are other ways of making sure there's video content on your website that don't cost anything, that can be produced with iPhones and within the school. It really depends on what it is that we're trying to achieve. Talk a little bit more about that later on. So what I've suggested here is, if you have a promotional film that is designed as that a virtual open day, so really giving parents the opportunity to sit parents down for 2 minutes and effectively sell the school to them. Consider having a short clip of that film on your homepage. So it's moving and it's animated and it draws people in, and then parents can click on that and watch a full promotional film about the school that is hosted on YouTube or Vimeo. That really makes sure that we don't slow your website down. So when people are traveling, if they've got poor broadband, then it makes sure that actually the load speed of your website isn't affected. Because one thing that really turns people off is a website that doesn't react and doesn't respond particularly quickly. So why are we doing this? Why are we talking about video? Well, basically, people spend 88% more time on a website that contains video. Video engages with people. It is actually now the way we expect to consume information. Google really likes it. So Google really likes websites that have video content because it's enriched content, and it means that it's going to be sending people to a place that it knows has, video, the way in which they want to consume that information. 72% of people would rather learn about something, a product, a service, or a place for their child, a school place for their child, through video than any other way. Really important to understand that actually when people arrive on your school website, they're almost expecting to see some form of video content, some way that you're going to engage with them and impart as much knowledge as possible. They will learn so much more from a video than they can from graphs of text, and however well that is written, the video is going to tell them so much more. They can see what's going on. Just by way of example, I quite liked this very, very simple website layout that William Barcroft Junior School are utilizing. They've got their menu across the top there, but they've just used this whole space, very simply put a clip of their video on and a great big play button. It's very obvious where they want people to go on this website. Now, there are some limitations and some amends that we would probably suggest to that design, but if you think about the goals that they've set, it would seem very evident to me that this school is a school that wants to engage with prospective parents. It wants to make sure that it draws prospective parents in, it grabs hold of them as soon as they arrive on the website, and it tells them their story. So when you click on that button, you're presented with actually about a 2.5-minute film, which is very enriched. There's lots and lots of activity. It's really quite an exciting thing to watch. And as a parent, you start thinking, well, this is definitely a place that I would like my child to go. It looks wonderful. It's very happy and smiley, and there's lots of activity. So much better than the picture of the empty school yard and that we saw before for Newhay Community Primary School. So just the empty building. How much more engaging has that been for us? Okay. Third mistake is just making sure that actually the people who you want to be able to access your website can actually access it. So ease of use is really, really important on a number of levels. So on the first level, it's actually being able to get onto the site. Over 70% of internet usage is on a mobile device. That is a huge figure. And yet many, many school websites are hopeless on a mobile device. Okay, so if you consider, here's the Fortis Trust website, for example. So on a desktop, this looks really, really, really nice, nicely designed. We kind of know what's going on. If you look at it on a mobile telephone, it's actually been completely redesigned. So there's a completely redesigned version of the website. So it's not just that the website responds to the screen size. So you'll hear lots of suppliers saying, yes, our websites are responsive. That's not really what we're talking about. So the demands that you should make on a supplier is that they actually create a mobile-friendly version of the site. They should be building two versions, a desktop version and a mobile version. And the reason for that is to make sure that actually it's been considered how information is being presented to people on a mobile telephone. For example, that you would want to amend the menu system. So as you can see here, if we go back, you can see that the menu was structured along the top of the screen. That really doesn't work on a mobile phone, but you will see websites that just try and do it, and it's very difficult to navigate. But actually with the Fortis Trust, completely different menu system. It's a simple button here, and actually if you click on that, the menu then shows up underneath. So it makes it really, really simple to navigate and use on your mobile telephone. They've also restructured everything so that everything works in a linear fashion down their page. So as you scroll down the page, everything has been moved around to work really nicely on a mobile telephone and make the whole experience work, essentially. If they're considering 70% of the people that are looking at it are going to be on a mobile phone, very often schools have never really, they order a website, they have it designed, it looks beautiful, and they never see a mobile version until it's too late. The website launches and parents start to complain because it doesn't really work on a mobile. So watch out for that phrase, responsive. Responsive is important. Your website should be responsive, That makes sure that all of the information is presented depending on the screen size that someone is using, but that doesn't work on a mobile device. Simply being responsive is not going to produce the results that you want. Okay, so my next common mistake is that websites don't get to the point. There's lots of research done on people's attention spans. You guys work in education, and I'm sure you've read lots of information there yourselves about that. But research indicates that an average adult's attention span is about 8 seconds. So your lessons would have to be really quick to teach anybody anything in 8 seconds. But effectively what it means, what that comment means is you need to have engaged with people enough that they want to stick around and engage back, really, and watch what you're trying to say, read what you're trying to say, or look further into it. So we've got about 8 seconds to win the hearts and minds of our prospective parents or our prospective new members of staff who are seeing the school for the first time. So to grab hold of them, grab their attention and engage with them, we have about 8 seconds, not a very long time at all. So we need to make sure that actually the information we present to them is concise. If you consider somebody arriving on your website and you're hoping that because they're a prospective parent, they'll go and read the head teacher's welcome, and the head teacher's welcome is 3 pages long and is lots and lots of paragraphs of information. It's not happening. That is not what people are going to be doing. They need little bite-sized bits of information that provide an essence of what the school is about and an essence of what is important. I've shown these next screens before in my branding masterclass, but I've brought them into here because I think it's just important to mention specifically for websites. What you're looking at the moment is information that I pulled off the government website last year during COVID. Was that the year before? Blimey. When the government was telling us all to stay indoors and to not engage with anybody and to wear a mask and to keep 2 meters apart from everyone, there was rafts of information. And it would be very, very specific. So in this situation, this is what you want to do, but should you be this type of person? And then if you've got this underlying health reason, and there was just this huge amount of information that the government was pumping out into the public arena. Now, one thing that they did really well, and I say that carefully, but they did do really quite well because their marketing department is actually really quite effective, is they managed to distill all of that information down into 3 key phrases. Actually, they did this a number of times. You'll remember during the pandemic, I'm sure you'll recognize the power of 3, it's known as in marketing, but they used hands, face, space. So rather than them constantly having to sit and every time they mentioned hands, they have to say, you should be washing your hands for the time that it takes you to sing happy birthday, and you should do that every time that you've, etc., etc. They just say hands because that information has been told and it's a reminder. And face, okay, so I've got to wear a face mask if I'm in a public area, etc., etc. So the power of 3 is distilling information down into something that people can. I'm just going to turn this off. Sorry about that. I keep getting little beeps. So distilling information down into really key bits of information that people can digest. There is no way, as the first exposure you got, that the government could say, okay, here goes, and just provide you with all that information. And at the end of the 45-minute presentation it would take to tell you all of that, expect that you're going to remember it, because you're not. So everybody within marketing, you're going to start noticing the power of 3 throughout all sorts of marketing that you look at. When you're watching, I don't know why I'm pointing over there because my television's over there. When you're watching a television advert, you'll see that they always have the power of 3. There'll be 3 key things that they'll get you to remember, and you'll start to notice it. Really useful thing to think about on your school website, in your school marketing. Again, if you want some more advice about that, join my brand identity masterclass, where we go into much more detail about how you start distilling information. So here's just an example of a website that is not doing it right, has got that ton of information just on the homepage and is kind of hoping that a parent is going to come on and read through all of that text. It's not going to happen. We need to be much more punchy than that. We need to grab their attention better, and we need to put our information across in a much better fashion than that. So what we're talking about is kind of making the most of what you've got. I mentioned at the top end that a lot of what I'd like to do, hopefully you can look at and think, okay, well, actually, there's no cost investment needed here. We've kind of got a website already. We can make these amendments and make it work harder for us. So I just looked at Park Lane Academy. Again, I was looking for a website that kind of uses just school buildings. This is very common. I don't know what this is supposed to do, really. Pictures of school buildings, okay, so the outdoor space looks nice and the school looks new, but is that the most important thing to me as a parent looking for a new school, that it's got some nice outdoor space and the buildings look new? It might well be, but why is that important? Where's the humanity to that? Where's the engagement with children and staff, and what makes this school? You know, the school talks about pride, respect, and ambition. They've got the power of three. Pride, respect, and ambition is what they talk about. But how do those images that they're using relate to pride, respect, and ambition? And actually, what does pride, respect, and ambition mean? Now, I've told you to distill information down to 3 words, but those 3 words just left randomly there don't mean a huge amount to me. I don't know why that's important to the school. So why not separate those out? So again, within that website, they've already got what's called a slider on the homepage. So those images are changing all of the time. So let's put an individual message over there. Let's put one of the 3 words that we've brought out, which is pride. Let's have some text about what pride means to the school, what's important to us. And then let's have a button. Let's drive parents to watch our tour. So that's a tour that actually that's something that's been professionally produced for them, but that could be something that your pupils have created, that are, you know, giving parents a little tour around the school and introducing them to little part, you know, that sort of thing. So as those screens change, now we'll talk about respect and what respect is all about. Again, some more information and a big button for getting in touch and getting people to engage with us. Ambition, further word, and a 3rd call to action, which is download prospectus. So all of a sudden now we've provided 3 key things that are important to the school. We've explained a little bit about what those 3 things mean, and we've told the parents what we now want them to do. Click these buttons. We're going to help guide you through our website. We're going to take you on a journey. Okay. Before we get into how you do that and how you plan that user journey and what that can look like, I just wanted to mention this because this is a mistake. It's becoming less. Maybe sort of 3 years ago, these were more common, but there are still lots and lots of school websites that, in my opinion, don't understand who they're talking to. They don't know their audience. So what I mean by that is you'll see lots of these examples that are flashing up on screen. So kind of cartoon-based website designs. These are very often produced when you ask an independent design company who've not worked with schools, not always, because I suppose what you think of is school, children, so you design it to be very child-centric and child-friendly. Okay, the issue here is we're not talking to children. We are a primary school. We should always feel like a primary school if that's the case, or if we're secondary school, obviously that's separate, but these are all examples of primary schools. So the website needs to feel right. It can't be, you know, corporate. It can't look like the Apple website. It would be completely out of kilter with who we are. But we're not talking to children, we're talking to adults. And actually, very often those adults are used to consuming information from much more professionally produced websites. They spend a lot of time online. We've already seen that. So these websites are just not talking to the audience in the right way. They're not talking to the right audience. They're geared to children, and it's not children, actually. It is a little bit more now. Some children do use school websites to access online learning, etc. But most of the time, the audience that we're talking to is adults. It's not children. So that was just a little aside. Okay, so back to some of those key mistakes that schools are making on the website. And something I get asked a great deal about is how you can organize information on a website. Very, very simply, every website should always have a sitemap produced before it's built. So if you don't know what a sitemap is, it looks a little bit like the image that you can see on screen there. And it's a really great way of, you can do it electronically, you can do it on a sheet of paper, but it's a really great way of just making sure that all of the information you know is going to have to be included is going to be included, and you've decided the very best place for that to sit within the structure of your website to make sure that it looks, it's sensible and it makes sense to a user who goes there. It's worth mentioning that very often the structure of a website gets worse over time. So school websites tend to be around for 3, 4, 5 years, and over that time things will be added. And what needs to happen when something is added is that the sitemap comes back out and we consider the very best place for that information to be placed. Sometimes it's not very intuitive. Somebody's just dropped it in and dropped it into a menu structure that doesn't effectively make sense. So the first thing to do is to do that. Organize the information that you're going to want on your website and create that sitemap for your homepage and then the different sections, what's going to go where. Really, really simple idea. I'm often asked, and again, I suppose it's a mistake that schools make with their website, is they lead with the information they know has to be there. So one easy place to go is gov.co.uk, because it provides details of all of the statutory information that you're going to need to include on your website. So very often schools will then go there and rely on that to provide them with the structure of their site. But actually, really, all that is that statutory information. That shouldn't necessarily be front and center on your website. That can be contained within its own section. Ofsted don't mind where that is structured in your site, as long as it is in there. So just to mention that, but don't let that statutory information lead what you've got. What we need to do is to consider what our audience wants to access. What information do they want to get from our website? Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about that. Let's think about our audience, who they are, and the information that they need. And what we want to consider is, when somebody arrives on our site, what's their experience going to be? So that's understanding the different audiences that we have and the information that they're going to want to access on your website. So we call that a user journey. So when we're designing a website, we will design user journeys for each section of audience and each bit of information that the audience wants to access. So a user journey is effectively a path that someone's going to take to reach their goal on a website. So predetermining what that's going to look like. So if you had a prospective new parent comes onto the site, we want to introduce them to the school, and we want to make sure that they sign up for our open day. We can plan what that path looks like, and we can make sure that they're navigated. We control how they navigate through the site, and therefore we're telling them our story. We are controlling the information that is presented to them. That's what a user journey is all about. It sounds quite complicated. It's actually quite simple to plan out. And one of the easiest things that you can do is to list out those goals that I mentioned earlier and make sure that we create a user journey for each of those first off. So we need to understand who's using our site. So who are our audience, and that could be prospective parents and feeder schools and nurseries, could be existing parents, could be prospective new members of staff or recruitment agencies, the local community. Pupils might use your website, Ofsted and other professional bodies. So all of those different people need to be catered for on your website. And then we're going to map out the easiest user journeys for each of those people. So effectively what we're talking about there is the fewest clicks of a mouse, not having the convoluted ways that people go through your website. This is your opportunity to control the information that they're going to see and that they're going to digest and understand. So very often I will talk to a school who will tell me that they have an admissions issue. They've got a problem with pupil numbers. When I visit their website, it is really difficult for me to inquire to the school. So I'll very often ask them about their admissions process, and quite often they'll say, well, that's handled by the local authority. And when you go on the website, if I can find something about admissions, I've got to navigate to it, find it on the menu system. And when I click on it, I'm sent out to the local authority. So that's not the school selling itself to me as a parent. It's kind of the nuts and bolts of the admissions process, tells me how I apply for a school place. But the local authority is not going to sell my school over another school. We've got a job to do first on our website. We need to consider what information we're exposing that person to. And then, do we really want to send them off to the local authority? I think actually what we want to do is to engage with them further. So have them request a prospectus from us, have them request an appointment with the head teacher, or to attend a school tour or an open day, or at least fill in a form so that we know who they are, so that we can then engage with them, send them our newsletter on a monthly basis so that they're starting to get a feel for what the school is like. So this is what I'm talking about when I say those missed opportunities on a website. It all starts with your goal and then planning what that user journey looks like. I brought this up on screen because I actually think it's quite a nice example of an infant and nursery school that has definitely considered those things. So it's got that standard website layout. You can see it's got this menu structure along the top, but they've really thought about, so they've got straight away, they've got a get in touch button. They've got their phone number up there. They've got a button that if you click, you can email them. They've got a search facility, and then they've got their standard menu. They've then got this welcome message, a little bit about the school, and a click button. What they want people to do is to go and read their latest news. But they've also got these hotkeys at the bottom here. So an admissions button. So straight away, prospective new parent comes on the site. Admissions, there you go. I'm looking at admissions. I'm going to click that button, and the school's controlling what I'm presented with. Meet the staff, curriculum, Ofsted, newsletters. So they've thought about what it is that they want to do. And that screen changes. So then they've brought their vision and values up, a little bit of a message, and again, another call to action, another button to go and find some more information about the school. It's worth considering how you then present information to people. So one thing that I really like when I see on websites and feedback that we get from parent communities is that they really like is the information for them is structured into their own portal on your website. By portal, really, it's just a section on the site, but it makes them feel important. So it's a way of not upsetting your existing parents when the website can start to look a little bit salesy, a little bit promotion of the school. For some reason, existing parents can get a little bit fed up with that. They don't really like it. So what we can have is we can guide our existing parents straight into their own parent portal. Well, all of the information that they want is presented to them. So we're moving them away from that promotional material that's on the site. And then they can access your term times and how to pay dinner money and information about school. You know what I'm talking about when I mention a parent portal, but really worth considering having that section on its own, and possibly other portals for other groups and other audiences within the school. I've seen them done really effectively for governing bodies as well. That works really well. Very often they've got password protected area for governing bodies, just to stop people being able to access that information. Okay, so we said, I'll just come back to this screen, the user journey. The first thing we needed to do was to understand who's using the website. So let's take a look at prospective parents and consider a user journey for those people. Here's that example that we looked at sort of 25 minutes ago. What could they do really simply without spending any money in order to make the user journey of prospective parents more effective on their website? So what I did is I found an example of a school that is doing something similar. It is also using just a picture of a school building. Lots of schools do it. I don't understand why. But what they've done instead is very simple message, and then welcome to our school, nursery and reception 2022 virtual open day information. Big button, click it. There's no doubt where I'm going to go as a prospective new parent. I'm going to click on that button, and all of a sudden the school has guided me into where I want to be. With this one, I've no idea. I'm going to start clicking on our school probably, or would contact be right? I don't know. I'm going to have to start searching about. So from a user point of view, my experience is so much better on the Perry Vale Primary School website. That doesn't mean to say that you've limited the audience that you're talking to, because every 4 or 5 seconds that front, I think it's quicker than that actually, maybe every 3 seconds, that front image changes, and then they're reaching out to prospective new members of staff, talking about joining the team. Again, a big button click. If this is you, this is what you're interested in, you're a prospective new teacher or teaching assistant, or a cook, or a janitor or a dinner lady, whoever you might be, click on this button. We're going to show you what you need to know and where you need to go. So it's just thinking about all of those people, making their life easy. If you don't, and your competition do, then you're likely to lose out to them. You can lose out on a really good teacher because their experience of your website wasn't great. It kind of reflects on the school a little bit. This school has obviously thought about it. I thought the website was great. It presented me with all the information straight away. I knew exactly what I needed to do. I could download a form. So I applied to that school. And in fact, I was that convinced by them that I didn't bother looking at the other one. I didn't go back, and I didn't apply because I couldn't find where the form was. I couldn't find the information that I wanted. So some advice and some suggestions are, when you're considering that user journey and how you're going to map out your website, survey your existing parents and your existing staff. What do they find frustrating in your site at the moment? What do they need from your website? You could ask pupils as well if there's things that they need from the website, your governors, perhaps even the local community if they make use of the site. So basically, so that you're not second guessing, I suppose, that you actually have some tangible evidence of exactly what it is that people want from your website. So we've got all of that promoting the school bit we do for prospective parents, but what about our existing users? What do they want from it? Let's make sure that we've catered for that. Make a list of other school websites that you love and that you think are actually managing the user journey well, and then use those ideas, copy those formats. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You will find some schools that are doing it really, really well. And it's a great way of evidencing that to other people in the school that perhaps won't know what you're talking about. So you can show them, let me show you the difference. If you arrive on our website, this is how difficult it is to find information. Let's take a look at this other school's website and just how easy that flow of information is. This is what we should be doing. It just helps to justify that within the school. This next point is really, really important. If you take nothing else away from today, please take this away. I'm hoping that you'll go away and review the effectiveness of your site, but you need to build in a plan where you do that on a regular basis. Every 3 to 6 months, review your website. And what I mean is, you'll find that more often than not, school websites grow and develop and build. Lots more information is added to the website. So after 3 or 6 months, is it still easy to navigate? Have things changed? Have things been moved around? Do we just need to spend a few hours shuffling things around and just making sure that the website is right? I guarantee that if you do this, in the long run, it's going to save you lots of money. And the reason I say that is that, I think I said it earlier on, that school websites tend to last about 4 or 5 years before a school looks to refresh it. If you talk to a school, there are 2 reasons why that happens. The first one is that their system is difficult to use and to update. Well, it shouldn't be. Modern website systems are very easy to use and very easy to update, and really anybody should be able to do that. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to change create a page, change the text, change images. It should be very, very simple. Most websites now, majority of websites are built in WordPress, and there are very simple systems that can be added to WordPress to make that system really simple. The other reason that most schools are changing their website, they'll tell me, is that the information on there is out of date. It's difficult to navigate. There's too much information on there. It's all over the place. So if you choose a system that is easy to update, it will still be easy to update in 4 years, 5 years time. And actually there's no real reason why that needs to change. If you monitor and review your website regularly, it should never get to the point where it's a complete dog's dinner and it needs to be redone. And I'm a firm believer that there is no need for that investment. That shouldn't be happening. We need to plan right at the front end and make sure that our website is organically developed and grows and builds and lives with the school and is just as relevant now as it was the day that we built it. So future-proof your website. Consider that. Make that a demand on anybody that you're working with. Some schools have them create their own website. Well, let's make that a demand that that we're reviewing it. If you're using an external provider such as ourselves or another business, make that a demand on what you want to happen, to make sure that it doesn't become obsolete in 4 or 5 years and you've got to spend another pot of cash in order to redo it. It just seems crazy for that to happen, and it doesn't have to. Make use of, so when we're considering this user journey and how people are going to journey through the website, make use of Google Analytics. Now, if you don't already have Google Analytics set up on your website, there's not a lot there won't be a great deal of information that you can work with. But if you do, great. If you don't, it is definitely worth doing, not least because it's very easy and it's completely free. Google Analytics can provide lots and lots of data and lots of insights into what people like on your website, the pages that they visit, the pages that they drop off your website. So where do you lose your audience? Where are they coming from? What is it that they're searching? So what's popular? How do people arrive on your website? What were they looking for when they arrived on your website? That can be invaluable information when you're looking at structuring your content and the information that you're providing, because you're providing the things that people are asking for. And that can basically serve as a benchmark going forward. So look at Google Analytics now, decide on the improvements that we're going to make, how we're going to change that content, and then keep looking at Google Analytics and see how those changes have improved that traffic and improved the engagement with people that are looking at it. Google Analytics is really, really simple. If you want any help and advice with it, then again, contact me after. I'll give you all of the details of how to contact me after today's session, and we can provide some advice as to how you can go about doing that. Really, really worth doing. As I say, you can access Google Analytics for no money, so why wouldn't you do that? It provides lots and lots of information for you. When again, so another mistake, as I said, I'm structuring today around mistakes that people make on their school websites, and this one is very, very common. So even when people have managed to guide people through to the point where they're engaging with them and they're asking them to fill in a form, and the form's got 25, 30 different fields to fill in, I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. It's going to be just too infuriating. Some people will, but you'll find it much more effective to just ask for 3 or 4 bits of information. Effectively, you don't need any more right at this early stage. What we're actually trying to do, there is no other way we can do this. We're trying to find out who this person is. Somebody is on our website. Now, there are lots of systems that can give you little bits of information. There's a system that says it can give you the IP address of someone who's visited. They're not that great. Basically, nobody can tell you who. It will. Katie, the webinar will be available for you to catch up on. There's a recording of it, and I'll be sharing that with everybody that's attended today. Absolutely no problem. Thanks for attending, and I'll forward that on to you. All we need is a little bit of information. All we want to be able to do is to engage with this person now. Who are they? And how do we engage with them? So there are no systems in the world that can tell you who that person is on your website. So what we've got to do is to get them to tell us who they are. And the best way that they're going to do that is that we only ask for a small amount of information from them. Once we've got that information, well, then we can engage with them, we can talk to them, we can send them emails, we can send them video clips, we can direct them to our other areas of our website, and we can ask for more information at a later date. But now we're engaging and having that communication with them. Okay. Another mistake is, I've talked a little bit about this, but just not keeping the website up to date. Quite often that's because people think that or find that they're difficult to use, which is to do with the system that you've chosen, really. So it's a really important consideration if ever you're looking at changing your website, that you get to see the system that you're going to use, and that it is simple and easy for staff to work on. Not having up-to-date information is a really poor reflection on the school. It's just a terrible advert for the school. It's going to do lots and lots of damage. So we need to sort that out. It's something that you've got to make sure happens. Very often schools are relying on sort of expensive support from suppliers. So I hear a lot that, well, look, we don't update because every time I want to change something, a supplier asks for X amount of pounds in order to come on and do it. So again, right at the front end, you need to decide what that's going to look like. How will support work? Can we do it ourselves? We need to be trained to do that, possibly. Can we want to be able to, that's always going to be the most cost-effective way, is that it's simple to use and that you can update it yourself. You don't really want to be relying on a provider such as ourselves and having to pay them every time you want to put an update on it. It shouldn't work like that. One way that there's a couple of dynamic ways that you can always make sure that your website is kept up to date. One of those is to have a social media feed. So on the homepage of your website, as you scroll down, there's a feed that comes in from Twitter, for example. We very often do this on school sites. So every time you tweet from the school account, that tweet is then replicated on the school website automatically, just appears there. So if you're tweeting every day, the information on the school website is changing every day automatically. So as a prospective new parent, I'm looking at your homepage and I can see a tweet from earlier this morning or from yesterday, and I get a real flavor for what's going on a daily basis. It's, for a prospective parent, it's kind of the inside information. There's information from different classes and from your sports community and from the teams and from the brass band and from whoever else is reflecting the school on Twitter. And that can be really, really powerful. And it's a great way to give a sense that the website is being looked after. So another way of doing that is that you bring in the latest news. So you've got latest news sections that, okay, Daniel, yeah, no problem. I will send you the recording, not a problem. So news sections can do exactly the same thing as those social media feeds. Review and overhaul your site every 12 months. So I've mentioned that, doing those reviews every 3 to 6 months just to make sure that information hasn't changed, but do a full review and overhaul of your site every 12 months. Book it into the calendar and make sure that you do it. It's really, really important that happens. So that's how we're going to avoid that frustration of building the site every 5 years. That regular investment, so it might be after 12 months, you need to make a small investment in the site, which might just be an investment of time, to be fair, but those small investments will pay dividends as you move forward. So I strongly advise that you do that full audit. If you're not sure how to do that yourselves, then give a company like ourselves a call and we can look at we do free website audits anyway. So, give someone like us a call and we'll take a look at the website and tell you what could be improved and how you could change it. Make sure it's still operating the way that you intended when you built it. And those user journeys are still working. And one way that can be really cost effective of really, I'm going to use the word judging, I apologize, but judging up your website is to change the images. Get the professional photographers in again, take some really great photography around the school, and that can really refresh the website. It just gives it a sense of it being a redesign almost, because those images really help sell the school. not a mistake, but just something I wanted to mention because I'm asked about this quite a lot, is, what about SEO? The difficulty with SEO is that often people have heard of it, don't know much about it, don't, a little bit of information, but don't really understand it. And that's because anybody involved in SEO doesn't really want you to understand it. It's a bit of a black art, and the companies that offer SEO keep that information very close to themselves, because actually letting that information out into the public domain does them out of their work, really. So SEO is search engine optimization. This is effectively how you make your website visible on an internet search, on a Google search. So again, I'm not going to go into too much detail. We could do a whole masterclass on search engine optimization, but I will say that my suggestion is always there is a need for some SEO to be done on your school website. Every school website should have some SEO completed. But if you engage with an SEO business, in my experience, they will try and sign you up for 12 months, 2 years. And for school, that's just complete overkill. You don't need that. Once the standard SEO work has been done on a site, and effectively what that is there are certain things that Google needs to have been done on your website so that it doesn't penalize the site. When it looks at the site, it says, oh, I like this site. It's been structured correctly. It's got what are called H1 and H2 titles. It's got alternative text for images. Images have been titled and have got keywords, etc. There's a whole raft of things that need to be done throughout the website. Once they've been done, however, it's not like a commercial site or an e-commerce site where that needs to be kept up to date regularly on a daily basis. Once it's done, it's kind of done on a school site. So I would strongly advise any school to invest in an SEO launch campaign. It should last about 3 months. They'll only do sort of a number of hours each of those months. But after 3 months, your website will have been actioned correctly, and it will make a difference to the way that it's seen and found on Google when people are looking for schools in your area. So it is worth considering that. SEO is not something that we offer as a business, but if anybody wanted any advice, there is a colleague I've worked with in another company that I know and trust, does some great SEO work with schools. I could always put you in contact with them if you did want some more advice about that. Okay. I just wanted to offer some advice about choosing and working with a supplier. Most schools, when they're looking at a website, are going to outsource that and ask a company to come in and create that for you. So what should you demand of that company if you're going to engage with them? The first thing really is that there is a complete brief created for the project. And that should not only outline specifically what's going to be included in your website, so what the brief of that project looks like, but there should also be included in there an outline of your school's brand character. So you should demand of your supplier that they reflect the school back at you, that they are able to tell you what's important about your school, what's unique, what the remarkable about your school is. Because if they don't understand that, they are not going to design a website that reflects your brand character and your brand messaging. So it's really important that that happens, and you need that confidence in your supplier that that's going to be the case. I would always demand a robust delivery plan from them. So you want to know when each section and each stage of the website is going to be delivered. To give you an idea, a school website project is going to last about 12 weeks. From the moment you tell the company that you want a new school website, your new website should be launched and live and available 12 weeks later. It can be done quicker, but it should never be any longer than that. 12 weeks is kind of the longest, unless you as a school have requested that you want it to take longer because there's more things that you want to spend some time looking at. But that should give you some idea. So you want to see stages in the development that are going to help hit that sort of deadline. Another thing is, I very often hear from schools who say, well, I engaged with the company, but the site that they delivered, I didn't like, which worries me a little bit. What you really want to be able to see is the design of the site. You should know what it's going to look like before it gets built. So again, demands I would make of a supplier are, don't just go away and build me a website. I want you to come back and show me what that website's going to look like. Show me what the homepage looks like. Show me how the menu navigates. Show me internal pages. What does the calendar look like? They should show you all of that design, and ask for your feedback until you're happy with the way that it looks. And then they'll go away and build the website that looks like that. So again, that's a demand that you should make of a supplier to make sure you get the most back from the investment that you're going to make. A few other quick questions that you can ask. How are they going to manage content? So just make sure that there's a plan as to how content is going to be put on the website. There's lots of ways that can be done, but it is a question to ask to make sure that you're comfortable with whatever answer is decided upon. Are they going to direct suitable photography? So not just use some images, but actually send in a photographer with some specific brief as to what they want to capture and how they want that to look. I advise that you do that. It's going to make your website much more effective. What's their ongoing plan to ensure the site remains up to date and future-proof? So the issue that we've been talking about, how can they help in terms of reviewing your site on a regular basis? What does their support system look like? Make sure you're comfortable with, is that telephone support? Is that online? What's included in that support? What will they do? What won't they do? Perhaps more importantly, have that mapped out very clear and what the cost of that is before you engage with their services, so that you know that there's no hidden costs in making sure that your website runs smoothly. And are you tied into their CMS? And by that, I mean the content management system that they've created in. If it's not in WordPress, it can be in a number of different things. But if you cancel a contract or close the website down, do you have to have the website rebuilt, or can it be moved and changed about? Just ask those questions at the front end. Okay, I have effectively covered the points that I wanted to cover today. So I just want to give you an answer to what comes next, really. So the feedback I get from my masterclasses is people would always like to know what's the easiest thing that I can do in order to start to solve some of these issues. There's a number of things that you can do, but most importantly, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. So if you believe that there are some issues with your website, make a commitment here and now that you're going to make a change to that. However that's going to happen, make a commitment to do it and then follow that through. Because if you don't, it will sit there forever and it'll never happen. Quite a simple idea, really. A number of things you can do. The first one is, if you just want some advice, I'm always available. I'll be popping a link in the email confirmation that I send at the end of today's event to my calendar, and you can just jump on there and book in. It's completely free to do. You get an hour of my time. We can take a look at your website and I can offer some advice. And it's really that simple. So if you've got specific questions, specific issues, we can make sure and chat through them. The other thing is that we offer, for everyone that attends this masterclass, we offer a website package that basically covers all of those issues that I talked about today. So the structure of that package, it covers the discovery of the school. So that's really helping you understand how you should be presenting the school to the outside world. It covers designing a website, building it, delivering it to you, and supporting it moving forward. It doesn't tie you into a long-term contract. It's really, really simple system to use, and you get trained on how to use it. You get a free review of your website every 12 months. And basically it's presented on an easy rental option. So you don't pay anything. There's no upfront cost. So it doesn't cost you thousands of pounds to have your website built. It's all included. And all you need to do is to say, we would like a new website, and you will pay £100 a month for your website. And everything is included. It's fully hosted and backed up and looked after. We service the site. We support you on the site. It gets designed and built for you, and you just pay £100 a month ongoing. And obviously we would hope that the website never has to be changed, because it's an organic thing that we help and develop and build with you over time. So if all of a sudden the school finds that it's got an issue with recruiting staff, we're here to support that. And we're here to advise how we can amend the website and how the website can be changed in order to accommodate those changes in your situation. So that's the offer that we make. And hopefully you found that useful. So I'm going to send you a message after the session today. It's going to include the recording of the session. It's going to include a link to my calendar if you'd like to book in, and also a link to how you can contact me if you'd like to talk a little bit more about, specifically about the website package. I'm just going to scroll back, Hayley, Jackie, and just see if there was anything there. You'd like to ensure, Jackie, you mentioned you'd like to ensure that the website is being used. How can we make it more attractive? It would be great to, if you wanted to book in some time, we can chat through that. But it's to give you a short answer, it's looking at what's different and remarkable about your school, working through that first. So what makes us, what do parents value in us? Who are we? What's our nature and character? Effectively developing the school brand. And once that's in place, then thinking about how we can reflect that in our website and make it much more engaging and attractive to people. Ensuring that the website is being used, I would question sort of how many people are visiting. So maybe we'd make sure that we've got some Google Analytics set up and see that people are actually visiting the site. And if not, then we can show you some ways that it can be promoted and we can start getting people onto the site. But if they are visiting, then just taking a look at where they're dropping off and where people aren't engaging particularly well with the website would be another thing that we can do. By all means, book in some time, Jackie, we can chat through that and I can see if I can help you. Hayley, I don't think there was any questions from you on there. If there's anything else that you would like to know, then please do drop it in the chat. No problem, Jackie. Thanks for attending. As I say, there's 25 people registered today, so I think some people might have had an access issue. I might end up rerunning this later in the week for those who've missed it. But thank you for attending. I really hope you've got something from it. There are a whole series of these masterclasses, so if there are other issues that you would like some help with, then please do book onto those. They're completely free. You're welcome to join those anytime that you want. Thanks, Hayley. Really great to nearly see you anyway, to engage with you today. Appreciate it. So thank you both, and you can expect to receive that email probably in the next sort of half an hour to an hour. Thanks for attending, and hopefully I will see you both again. Bye-bye now.